So hello everyone. The main intention of today's session is I will give you the statistics of UPSC also. As per the annual report of Union Public Service Commission, how many applications are there and how many are clearing the prelims. I believe personally that every aspirant who is preparing for civil services once should taste mains examination. You know, once if we taste the mains examination, we will not leave this examination. We will get into it. Most of the aspirants who leave the UPSC preparation are those who didn't taste mains examination, who didn't sat for 9 days of examination, whose hands are not paining. Morning 3 hours, afternoon 3 hours, like a marathon we have to write. So that we have to taste. So I recommend everyone, first you have to clear prelims. Yes, by the time you have to complete your mains preparation, your GS preparation, everything, but without tasting the mains examination is nothing. So today's session, mainly we as a team want to help in such a way that why most of the aspirants will leave the UPSC preparation without clearing prelims examination. Clearing prelims examination is becoming a tougher task. Yes or no? 100% yes it is. If you accept it or not, this is the truth. People will tell that yes, prelims ka hai, kuch facts pad le. I will study some facts. If I go through some facts, I will understand. The same facts I will be using in the prelims examination. That is 100% wrong. In this particular session, I am going to address, and with me, another sir, Gautam sir, we both will be addressing how to answer, how to clear prelims, how we have to make a bridge to enter into mains examination. That is most important. So today's session we focused, we made the content, we prepared the content, we made how to deliver this session for sitting nearly 6 to 8 hours at a stretch. So that the session should be useful for you. So that the session should make you to enable to clear the prelims examination without negative marks. So in this particular session, first I want to tell you the truth. How many applications for UPSC examination? How many posts are there? And how many are writing the mains? For example, if you know, it's well and good, but just I want to give you a caution. The number of applications for 2020 is 10,40,000 UPSC. Then the number of posts is 796. The prelims who cleared are 10,300. And the ratio is approximately in every 100 application, one application is reaching mains, not service. In 100 applications, one application is going to mains block of UPSC office. See, it's not about service. I'm not talking about the service. I'm talking about mains block. Our application reaching the mains block of UPSC building. If you see 2021 applications 9,70,000 watts are reduced. COVID impact 9,70,000 approximately same. But number of posts they know applications came less, so I will reduce by number of posts. So number of posts are 780. And the prelims approximately who cleared the prelims is 10,000, somewhere around 10,100. And the ratio is 1:99. Again, out of 99 means out of 100 applications, one application is reaching mains block. UPSC building. See, first we have to know the seriousness. If we know the seriousness, 100% we will do that work. We will do that hard work. So first we have to be very serious. I know you are serious, because of which you are sitting here. So in this session, we are focusing on why prelims is becoming a tougher task. Why prelims is becoming a tougher task? We have a lot of ideas. Sir, 50 test papers. I will go to nearby Xerox center, Padmavati Xerox center. I will take the Xerox copies. and I will do all the MCQs. I will solve all the MCQs, done. Checklist, how many MCQs I did. This institute, this many MCQs, this institute, this many MCQs, this institute, this many test series. Yes, done. Then I will take PT 365. Yes, I read PT 360. So the organicness, the organic preparation is missing. So that we will be doing in this particular session. So number one, why prelims is becoming a tougher task. We will discuss last 3-4 years papers only, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. I'm 100% damn sure that this 1 hour or 1 hour 25 minutes is going to be a very, very valid. Your time is not going to waste. How to address prelims? So how we are going to address the prelims? How we should address the prelims? This particular points we will be discussing in this particular session. So again, I will be joining you. Before that, some points will be discussed by Gautam sir. Then he himself cleared prelims 5 times, scored more than 150 in prelims, went to UPSC interview 2 times. 100% the session will be very much helpful. The practical, just now he written his mains also. So very planned in a very sketchy model in the current trend, as per the requirements of current pattern, we designed it. So he will be taking the session. Then again, I will be joining. Okay. Don't miss me, I will come again.
Good evening, folks. Just a random survey before I get into the session, right? How many of you have written your prelims previously? 1 attempt, 2 attempts? Don't worry, I'm not going to ask the number. I know how difficult it is if I ask you 3 times, 4 times, fine. How many of you have given or tasted that UPSC prelims are 2 hours of tension? Fair enough, fair enough. So I think more than 50% of the crowd, I think, you have tasted those 2 hours of turmoil, 2 hours of regret, 2 hours of intensity, right? Now, when you look at this particular stage of your exam, now the pure difficulty with respect to this particular exam is, it is purely a number game. I think sir had already showed you the slide with respect to your number of students appearing, number of applications coming, number of people sitting in mains examination, right? That's what we have seen. So the prime difficulty with respect to this stage of the exam, it is number game, because once you enter your mains, automatically it is 10,000 people. From there will be like 2-5, so roughly around 1:4 ratio. Now, but when you look at this particular ratio, it is humongous. That is first point. The second thing why this particular exam has become extremely difficult in the sense is randomness. Now, this particular parameter of randomness, now I think my experience of clearing it 5 times out of 6 times and writing it and coming out, 99% of the students or 99% of my friends, they'll be saying, our paper was very random. Everything under sky, anything under sky has been asked. That is the general comments. Now, when you look at 2021 paper, there was a question on triclosan, which is given behind your soap boxes, which is given behind your shampoo sachets, right? Or suddenly there was a question on this drumstick tree. Who in the universe who is preparing for UPSC will study about drumstick tree? Right? Apart from in your childhood, you climbing up, falling down, breaking your hand, legs. I think no other role it had in your life. Yes? So, the second parameter why this particular exam is becoming extremely difficult is randomness. Now, just being an engineer, I'm obsessed with little numbers or with graphical representation. Now, when you look at, I call this something else randomness curve, right? Randomness curve with respect to your UPSC prelims. Now, say if I'm talking about this is the percentage of randomness and I'm talking about the year. Now, say I'm starting from 2016. That was my first attempt, right? So, taking the first hand experience till 2021, 2020. Now, if you just trace the randomness or the nature of this particular paper, now it was something like this. The curve is something like this. Because now suddenly in 2016 and 2018, there was a sudden change with respect to the paper, right? In 2017, there was little more starting. In 2018, they switched the tone of the paper. Then in 2019, 2020, 2021, it started appearing very, very random. Now, one question generally pops up, right? Now you would understand this, those are giving your first attempt just the night before your prelims. You will not be feeling like sleeping, you will not be feeling like eating, right? Now all this will happen, suddenly you will get motion, suddenly you will get fever, right? Now, you need to understand that these factors or those two factors which I discussed does not make cracking prelims impossible. Because you need to remember the psyche of UPSC also. You need to know that 1,000 or 10,000 people have to write mains. That means somebody has to clear prelims, right? Somebody has to clear prelims. The only trick or the strategy that is used for clearing UPSC prelims is the famous dialogue of MS Dhoni, is controlling the controllables. Your polity is controllable, your economy is controllable, right? Your environment is controllable. History, I will not say it is controllable because it has three different sections. It has a culture also. You don't know from where they're going to ask. It is uncontrollable. We'll tackle it a little differently, right? Your current affairs are controllable because you have number of magazines, you have number of sources to read upon, right? So the strategy of clearing prelims is controlling the controllables. हमको ये clear है कि we don't need to know all 100 questions. The simple funda is, if you are knowing 60 questions or if you are answering 60 to 65 questions correctly and leave 30 questions as wrong, just take simple math. 30 questions are wrong, that means 20 marks I'm going to go negative. 130, 20, I'm still landing upon a safe score. Because please remember, for clearing UPSC prelims in, I think, last 3-4 years, the magic figure is somewhere around 100 plus. If you're getting above 100 plus, it is very certain. Now, before I get into this particular session and before talking about an objective strategy, because why am I calling it objective strategy is, I'll call it objective strategy because I'm going to substantiate my own personal experiences, right? Because I've been successful for 5 prelims at least, so I'll keep substantiating things, right? And we'll see how to go about with respect to stages. Now, when you talk about this particular stage, it is a threefold process. You need to do these 3 things for certain, right? The first stage is the basic knowledge. The first stage is the basic knowledge. The second stage is testing or something called as practice, right? And third, it is a process of learning. Learning from what? Learning from the mistakes we make. Now, this simple algorithmic approach for prelims will certainly take you to mains, right? With grit, with honesty, with integrity, with every sort of ethical principle, I can say, if you are sincere with respect to your preparation, all 3 stages, you can happily clear prelims, right? Now, coming to each stage of this, now when you talk about the knowledge source, when you talk about the knowledge source, now generally in the market, people say you read the standard books, right? You read NCRTs, right? Then you read XYZ Institute's notes. Finally, what happens is, it's good that aspirants are very inquisitive. You read all sources, but the fundamental mistake what an aspirant makes at this stage of preparation is they don't revise. Now, what happens is, just imagine you have read like 3 to 4 sources for one subject. For example, for polity, you have read your Lakshmikant, you have read your Basu, or you read your some other book. And finally, what happens is, just 1 month before the exam, that is the time, or the 10 days or 15 days before the exam, that is the time when you are supposed to revise. Now, suddenly, when you look back your revision shelf, it will be this high. You don't know whether to use it for a pillow, or you don't know whether to use it for sitting on it, right? Because this will be this high. This is one category. The second category is, they will be safely stored in your puja room. Every day you do puja, you put one agarbatti, harati, kumkum, everything you put. Now, we don't need so many sources, my dear. Keep it as simple as possible. I think in your schooling, they would have talked about KISS principle. Keep it simple and sweet. That is the mantra, or that is the strategy for your prelims. Nothing else. There is no rocket science in this, my dear. Please remember. Now, the reason why I'm telling there is no rocket science in clearing prelims is every year the same faces appear for means. How are they able to do? It is not that they are doing some black magic. Come on, clear prelims, clear prelims, clear prelims. No, it is not going to happen. That is not going to happen. The funda lies in strategy. Strategy, simple strategy. So when you're talking about the knowledge base, the only thing you need to do is restrict to one source. Restrict to one source. If you're reading your polity, read Lakshmikant, sufficient. If you're reading your economy, read the source which you have been following. If you're reading history, the best source I would say is NCERT, nothing more. Don't go for A.L. Basham or don't go for any other book. The best source for history, I'll say, is NCERT, is R.S. Sharma, Satish Chandra, and Spectrum for Modern. No better sources. And if you're talking about environment, read the fundamental book which you're preparing for. Now, once you restrict your sources to one, remember one. The thing what it takes here is you have to believe that whatever question is going to come from that book. That is the first thing, right? Now, once you believe and once you read and keep on revising, here what happens is, now when you go and look at the UPSC question paper, out of 100 questions, at least as per my experience or the experience of the other friends or the sir's experience, when we look at this set of question of 100, you would see 30 to 35 will be in your knowledge base. That means what you have read, what you have collected, what you have acquired over years, what you have been studying all through your school, you would have, or you will be able to answer 30 to 35 questions. Now the question mark arises, sir, what about the other 65? Now, if you are able to do this particular step of knowledge rigorously, religiously, sincerely, automatically what happens is this 30 to 35 questions are going to be in your basket. And basketing these 30 to 35 questions is extremely important because other 99 applications whom you are competing with are going to keep them right. They are going to keep them right. At the end of the day, this is going to be all relative. At the end of the day, this is all going to be a process of elimination. We'll see towards the little fag end of the session that you will realize that prelims is not about answering, it is about elimination. What we do, we read a question and we'll try to answer the question, but what I would say eliminate the options which are wrong. We'll see what to do for that. Right? So getting this 30 to 35 basket is extremely important. Okay, so that means now out of these 100 questions, I'm sure of 30 questions. If you have been preparing for 1 year, trust me, you can answer these 30 questions correctly. Right? Then coming to the second stage, that is the practice stage. Now, when you talk about this practice stage, as I think sir was telling, that you have, the aspirants will have checklist. We have taken 50 question papers, right? We have marked them. We have played wholly on it with different color pens, right? And we'll see what to do. We'll revise and go. No, sorry, not revise. We have done. We are satisfied. Now we'll go to the exam. We'll attempt the exam. You will come out and say, "Are useless fellow, nothing came from this paper. Nothing came from that test series, nothing came from this test series. Everything was new, everything was random, everything was under sky, something was asked." Now, these are the general comments which we come across. But trust me, any XYZ institute's question paper you take, if you're solving questions of 50 to 60 question papers, that is roughly around 6,000 questions. 6,000 questions, that means doing the full cycle of that particular institute's question paper, right? Sectional test, full length test, and whatever open test you're supposed to write, whatever you're writing. If you're doing that cycle completely and religiously, trust me, at least with my own personal experience, and I'm not lying, 45 to 55 questions can be answered safely. Can be answered safely. Now, because now, see, at the end of the day, what we need to do, we need to see at getting or arriving at the magic figure of 100 plus. That is our fundamental aim, 100 plus magic figure. Now, what we do, we increase 10 questions, 10 questions, 10 questions in every iteration we do, and we achieve or we arrive close at 50 to 60 or 60 to 65 questions. That's what we are supposed to do. Now, if you are doing this particular practice religiously, trust me, you can answer 45 to 55 questions safely. Safely. Now, for example, I will show you, I think, the last year's paper. So, I think this was last year's paper, 2021 paper, right? Now, when you look at this particular paper, now it appeared very random. I think the cutoffs also have gone very, very low, probably like around 90. Okay. Now, the reason why this particular paper appeared very random because the UPSC started to shift or it started to drift away from the standard sources. Now, please remember this particular statement. I'll substantiate this particular statement, right? It started to drift away from fundamental sources. Now, for example, if you look at one question that was asked in polity, I think that separation of powers was a question. Yeah, take question number 15. Now, when you look at this question number 15, now if you are restricting your polity source to Lakshmikant, then I don't think you will be able to answer this because now this particular question number 15 had a basis or it can be traced back to not polity but a political thought or political theory. The optional of PSIR, they'll be able to answer it better. There was one more similar question with respect to your separation of power that also had some political thought behind it. So remember this statement that now UPSC started to drift away from the conventional sources. We'll get back to this point little later, right? Now, when you look at this particular practice, now we did the bucket list, we did 50, 60 question papers and we're going to the exam hall. But you need to understand, when you're doing these question papers, there is a way of doing it. There is a way of doing it. It is not that we pick up the paper, we pick up something, we'll start marking and we'll read the solutions and go. There is a way of doing it. Now, if you talk about way of practicing or way of solving your question paper, now at least, now personally I would suggest, now at least in my first attempt or second attempt, I used to do roughly 100 to 120 question papers, right? This is one strategy which many people follow. 120 question papers, at least in my first, second attempts, right? But on later attempts, when once I understood the elixir of prelims or once I understood the tone of the examination, I think I boiled it down to 60 to 70 question papers, which are sufficient. Now, every time I enter every time I enter the examination hall, I ensure I solve at least 60 to 70 question papers. Now, there is a way of solving it. Now, whenever you solve your question paper, please make this table. Please make this table at least for your first 30 question papers. You'll understand why I'm talking about this particular table. Now, this table will go something like this. Now, you can talk about the number of questions you are attempting in that particular paper. Suppose you are talking about a sectional paper in polity, you're attempting say 90 questions. So this particular rubrics of this particular table, I'm going to have 90 number of questions I attempted. The second rubric is the number of questions that have gone wrong or incorrect. This is the second rubrics, right? This is the second rubric. Say, for example, I attempted 90, out of which my 27 questions are wrong. For example, just an analogy, right? Now, in the third rubrics, automatically it is how many? Correct? It is 63. And the last rubrics, this is the thing where we are going to work upon in the last stage or that algorithm which I showed you, the last stage of your prelims preparation. This is number of silly mistakes. Now you need to understand why am I talking about silly mistakes, because these silly mistakes will appear very silly when you come out of your exam hall. Trust me. And when you talk about these silly mistakes, now these are the silly mistakes which are going to spoil your chances of writing mains. Now again, simple funda you need to see. Now for example, a person who has prepared for 1 long year consistently, sincerely. Now he has given his attempt and he is not able to clear prelims. There is another person who has cleared prelims. Now when you look at the score difference, it is roughly 3 questions. Roughly 3 questions, not more. Because now once you come out of the examination hall, those who have given prelims, I think they'll be able to relate. Now once you come out, once you walk across the streets and you will talk, what is your range? I'm between 90 to 95. What is your range? I'm on the border, 98. I might or I might not. Right? Goda మీద పిల్లిలా ఉన్నాను. అటు పడొచ్చు, ఇటు పడొచ్చు. I don't know. That's what people discuss. Now when you look at the fundamental difference of the person who is clearing and the person who is not clearing is these 3 questions. 3 questions is what? 3 into 2, 6, negative 2, that is 8 marks. A difference of 8 marks. Now when you look at the prelims normal distribution curve also, it is going to fall somewhere like that only. The difference is going to be roughly, with 8 marks, I think at least 2 lakh aspirants will be there, or more than 2 lakh aspirants. In this 8 mark bracket, 2 lakh aspirants will be there. And you need to understand that if you are not making those 3 silly mistakes, you're through to mains. That's what you need to realize. That's what you need to realize. Now that particular stage or that particular realization will come only from this rubric. I'll again substantiate. Now for example, if you look at some 20th question. Yeah, this was that other political theory question which I was talking about. Now look at this particular question. Look at 21. I think this page was very funny in the examination hall, right? It appeared very easy, but when we were answering, I think we could not answer many of those questions, right? Or we were little dicey. Now when you look at this 21st question, it is talking about water can dissolve more substance than any other liquid because, now this is an 8th class chemistry question, right? This is an 8th class chemistry question. Okay. Now, this might appear very easy, which is actually easy. But what happens is, we as an aspirant think that array UPSC will not give such a silly question. There is something inside it. Edo maya undi andulo. That's what we people believe, that UPSC is not simple, right? They say what? Uncertain Public Service Commission or unexpected Public Service Commission. That's what we go with the nomenclature and we think there is something in this. Now what we do, we start taking magnifying glass and looking in the examination hall like this. And you realize you will mark something with that deceptive mindset, with that prejudices mindset, and you will come out. And 101% you would have marked that question wrong. Now, this is a silly mistake. Now, how to classify whether it is a silly mistake or not silly mistake is simple. If you are marking that particular question wrong in the examination hall, but you are able to mark that question right outside the examination hall, then it is a silly mistake. What is the difference here? The difference is your mindset. It is all your fundamental mindset, the deceptive mindset, which you are thinking that UPSC Babu, it is deceiving me. Now, if you don't have this particular mindset of prejudices and if you are with a blank slate, fine, you would have got it right. The dipolar molecule, where you will get it, or the potential of it is hydrogen bonding. You don't need to know hydrogen bonding word also. Dipolar, finish the business and come out. Now, same question, I think that's why this page was very funny when I was solving at least. Now look at this question. Sodium lamp and LED lamps. Now I'll tell you one fun fact about this particular question. Now again, this you don't get by reading somewhere. It is all your observation, right? You know why was this question there in the examination hall? There was a success meet that was celebrated for your Ujala program. What is Ujala program? Distribution of LEDs. And people say there are no current affairs in the paper. How can you say? This is one example. I'll show you multiple such examples where the UPSC is going one step ahead, where it is extrapolating the source of current affairs. We'll see. For example, here, Monetary Policy Committee, MPC, that was asked in 2021, the question on cooperatives, the question on capital accountability, or the question on capital accounts, reserves, forex, the question on IBC, the Dola Veera. Now, all these are current affairs. What we perceive current affairs means, we would have read XYZ magazine, that fellow would have highlighted in black, and that statement UPSC should see, should pick up and give it in the exam. That's what we believe. Yes. And you say UPSC is random? No, my dear, come on. It's all, I think this year in mains examination they had asked an essay, right? Your perception of me is reflection of you, right? Right? Same thing applies here. Okay. This is that extrapolation. Look at this 23rd question. Ace 2. We have been in the era of COVID. We have written two prelims in the era of COVID. And 90% of my friends had marked this wrong. That is, they have marked option A, 23rd. Now it's a straightforward question. Ace 2. It is something related to COVID. And look at, yeah, this is 25th triclosan, 24th bisphenol A. Now bisphenol A question was also a current affairs. Because you come across something called as leachate problem in your environmental studies. Now that was being aggravated because of bisphenol A diffusion into oceans. This bisphenol A is a major component in your water bottles. Right? Here what is happening again, it is a current affairs question. Now look at 26th question. Again a question on light year, which is your 8th standard physics. That's where you study the standard units of different 7 units. Light year as one of the unit for distance. Now this paper in the question paper was sufficient for you to be eliminated from writing means. And that can only happen if you are committing silly mistakes. Now this page had a lot of scope for committing silly mistakes. And people committed silly mistakes and they were not able to write means. So now what to do for this? What I'm telling is, we need to remember that we will make something called as silly mistakes in the examination hall. And the beauty of making silly mistakes is every year the form of silly mistake is going to evolve. Now in my first attempt I would have made some silly mistake which is very silly, but it would have evolved in my 5th attempt or 6th attempt. Now so what to do? That is the question, right? Now when you look at this particular rubric, you need to see. Now when you talk about the silly mistakes, there are 3 to 4 reasons. There are 3 to 4 reasons. One fundamental reason is lack of revision. When I don't revise a particular concept, I am done. For example, if I suddenly ask you, who appoints UPSC chairman? Sir, I don't know. Or you're confused whether there is a committee that is appointing UPSC chairman or whether it is only president who is appointing UPSC chairman. Suddenly if I ask, grants to the state comes under capital or revenue expenditure, you're confused. Yes, these are points of confusion. If I talk about velocity of money, if I talk about liquidity in economy, you're confused. If I talk about money aggregates, M0, M1, M2, M3, you're confused. Right? If I talk about some president of INC 1907, you're confused. Now all these confusions arise because of lack of revision. Now whatever points have arisen or have taken, that is pure experience. I also would have got confused on these points before giving my first attempt. Or when I was giving my first attempt. Very sure. Yes, everybody has to pass that. Now here what is happening is, if you are able to revise, you are going to cut down your silly mistakes. Now let me do some math here, right? Now say you are attempting 90 questions. We'll look at the number of attempts little later, right? Once I set the base, We'll see how many we are supposed to attempt, because that is also a very big question mark. Some people say attempt less, more accurate. Some people say attempt more. It's okay. Now say you have attempted 90 questions, right? And you have got say 42 wrong. You have got 42 wrong. And how many? 48 correct. Now out of this 42 wrong, there is very high scope for you to mark 9 to 12 questions which are very silly. Because just remember, it's again pure funda that you need to understand. Just remember, if your mistakes are crossing 40, that means there are more than 10 silly mistakes in your paper. That's very simple. If your mistakes are crossing more than 40 out of you attempted, there are more than 10 silly mistakes in your paper. Right? Okay. Now say you're having like up to 9 to 12 silly mistakes that you have done. Now with practice, with iteration, with revision, out of these 12, I can bet you can reduce it to 6. Because small nitty-gritties which are being caught by UPSC only are missed. Or it provides a lot of scope for that. For example, this year, economy appeared very easy, but it had a lot of scope for silly mistakes. This year paper in 2021, if you are able to solve your polity and economy without any mistakes, you are through to mains. That was the nature of the paper. Right? Now it is reducing to 6. That means the other 6 questions are going to be added to my positive side. Right? I was 96 here with how many negatives? 42 means 3, 14, 28. 28 marks. Roughly 68. 68 was my score with previous then. Now when I am adding 12 marks, I am adding 12 here. So I am going to 80. And you need to add your positives also. Because with 6 being reduced, you're going to have plus 6. Or sorry, plus 4, 84. Now look at the difference. Look at the difference. There's a difference of 16 marks. 16 marks. Now that 16 marks is purely if you're doing your first step of your prelims examination or the prelims preparation correctly. If you're revising what you have studied, I think the business, half business is done. Right? Now, so we are 84. We are just 16 marks away from the magic figure. That's what you will see how we'll arrive at magic figure. Right? Now we are cutting it down to 6. This is simple funda you need to understand. The second reason what happens with respect to silly mistakes is you misinterpret the question. You misinterpret the question. Now this particular nature of silly mistake, what happens or when it happens is basically when you're anxious about it. For example, there was a question on right to privacy. This was a repeated question. Yes, it was asked in 2019, it was asked in 2021. Right to privacy. And you see, I think UPSC will give Article 19 as the first option. And I think Article 21 was given as option C, if I'm not wrong. Now here what happens? You have read the question. This question is easy. We think it is repeated. It is easy question. Now what we do? We are in a hurry to mark it. Now when we are in a hurry to mark it, we mark Article 19 and come out. Now once you come out of the examination hall and you come back to your senses and realizing, Arey Babu, right to privacy is Article 21, not Article 19, put to Swami case. Now this is the second nature of your silly mistake. Right? The third nature of silly mistakes which are avoidable in nature is random guess. Inky pinky ponky. You pay on the question paper, A, B, C, D, or you take a dice. If 1 comes, I'll mark option A. If 2 comes, I'll mark option B. If 4 comes, I'll mark option D. If 6 comes, none of the above. Skip the question. That's what? Random guess. Now you need to understand this part can be avoided. this part can be avoided. Now, from this understanding, you need to understand what should be my ideal attempt. Because I'm telling you can leave some questions also. Then you'll get confused, sir, out of 100, how many I can leave? So if I'm leaving so many, how many I need to attempt? This is one fundamental question, right? Now, when you look at number of attempts, there are two schools of thought. People say attempt 70 to 75. Some people say attempt more than 85. Right? Now, you need to understand. You all remember that randomness curve, what I was talking? Yes, there was a exponential growth. Exponential growth. Randomness curve, that means the number of unknown questions in the question paper are increasing. Now, in a paper which you do not know, or more than 50% of the paper is not known, how can you go for an accurate attempt? No. It is like throwing a ball in the darkness. You don't know whether it is going to hit the target or it is going to miss the target. Now, no. I practiced in dark, I lit. That's not going to happen. So please remember, this particular judgment of number of questions is going to come, one, depending on the paper, and assuming the number game, assuming the number of aspirants increasing, UPSC will certainly go for a random paper. Because if it goes for a straightforward paper, the cutoff will land up in somewhere 170. Because there you have huge information. People call it as infodemic. That is very much applicable for UPSC aspirants. You have number of institutes, number of information being pooled. Now, if UPSC goes for a straightforward paper, most of the aspirants are ready for it. When you are ready for it, automatically the cutoff is going to go high. For example, if I faintly remember in 2016, the cutoff was 117. Yes, the cutoff was 117, which is huge because that year paper was very straightforward. It had greater proportion of current affairs. If you are prepared with current affairs, you could get. I think that was the year where I got 158. That year I scored 158. Paper was straightforward. Right? Now you need to understand that assuming it to be random paper, personally I would say go for more than 85 plus attempt. Go for more than 85 plus attempt. Now here you need to do some simple calculation. Now please get me right that why am I talking about so many calculations here is I want to make it very objective, right? I don't want to talk something very abstract. Okay. Now if I say it is random means I cannot be very abstract on it. I have to substantiate each point of it, and calculations is a very simple way of substantiating it, right? Because at the end of the day, our aim is going to be what? Going 100 plus. Going 100 plus, simple. No bigger aims. We don't want 180, 190. No, 100 plus. Now here, how will you arrive at this particular thing? Is there is something called as accuracy ratio. Don't worry, half the CSAT I'm covering here, I think. Right? At least your percentages I'm clearing here. Accuracy ratio. Now, when you talk about this accuracy ratio, you all remember this table? Yes? You all remember number of questions you attempted, number of wrong, number of right? Now, just put a percentage of this. Put a percentage of number of questions you are getting right with number of questions you are attempting. If it is ranging between 70 to 75 percentage, if it is ranging between 70 to 75 percentage, you have to attempt more than 85 questions. Take it for granted. If you're not going to attempt more than 85 questions, now trust me, you're already out of the race. Again, simple funda, you take, I'm having 70% of accuracy. Now, if I'm attempting like say 90 questions, that means 63 are going to be right and 27 are going to be wrong. That means 126 and 18 That means my score is roughly 108. 108. Yes. Now say, if I'm attempting with same 70%, I'm attempting 80 questions and coming out. Now what is happening? 56, 24, 112, 24 is what? 8, 16, 96. I'm already out of the race. Yes. Is it making sense? You need to understand that every individual will have a particular percentage of this. And trust me, if you're doing this very objectively, your final examination percentage is also going to land somewhere between this. Because for me, my percentage would land roughly 72 to 78. That is my accuracy percentage ratio. Now, for every one of you, by the end of or just 1 month before, say by May 5th, you need to be finalized with your accuracy percentage. Now, this is not something very big. Now, here, depending on this accuracy percentage, I'm going to take a safe attempt. Now, every year I attempt 96 to 98 questions. If the paper is very, very random, at least 92 to 96. Because somewhere I need to hit 110, 120, something like that. Now, the calculations are very straightforward. Right? This is the way of solving your paper. It is not that you simply tick and go attempt. It is not going to happen, my dear. Once you analyze your paper, once you finalize on your accuracy ratio, automatically your number of attempts is very clear. Not only the number of attempts are very clear, the content that you are supposed to revise is also very clear. Now say you're revising, say you're having 50 to 60 question papers. 50 to 60 question papers. Now say 50 to 60 question papers. Now that means roughly you're going to solve around 6,000 questions. Now if I'm solving 6,000 questions, say in out of 100 questions in each paper, I'm learning say 25 to 30 new topics. 25 to 30 new topics, which is very much possible and which generally happens. Now, if you're learning 25 to 30 new topics for 100 questions, 180 or 1800, something like that, or 1800, I think, sorry. You will learn around 1800 new topics. Logical enough. Logical enough. Now, once you're able to learn these 1800 topics and once you're able to revise these 1800 topics 3-4 times, trust me, nobody can stop you. Nobody can stop you from clearing prelims. With grit, with honesty, with faith, I'm saying this. Because I've been doing it. Practically, I've been doing it. And to substantiate, I think there was one friend who was continuously not able to clear, like roughly 3 to 4 times he had not cleared prelims. Now, same strategy was discussed. And in 2019, he scored 148. In fact, he got more than me that year. Now, you need to remember or keep in mind, quote unquote, that this is not the only method. But the reason for me to reinforce this particular method is this has been working for many people like me. When we know the key, why to go for some other thing? Why not practice? Why not reinforce? Why not imbibe? Why not indoctrinate and write our mains? As I think sir was beautifully putting it, once you write the mains or once you taste that mains, you will not feel like leaving this exam. That's very true. Because from prelims, you are 2 stages away for becoming an IAS officer or IPS or IRS. But from mains, you are just 1 step away. You don't know what is the level of confidence you get. And for most of us, it is, this prelims is a blockade. And once you do this steps objectively, I think nobody can stop you. Now, moving forward, now that is the way you practice. And in that practice, with that rubric only, that is the way you learn from your mistakes. I told you 3 to 4 forms of silly mistakes. You need to realize which form you are doing more, whether it is lack of revision, whether it is overguessing, whether it is because of some anxiety, because of some hurriedness in the paper. You need to realize which I am doing and you need to be cautious about it. And you might get it out. Does people or those people who are clearing prelims, they'll do all this? 99% will do all this. Because you need to do all this only for one good attempt. From then on, you will have the master key to prelims. Nobody is going to stop you. 1 year you clear your prelims. Next year you will have that confidence that yes, Are Baba, I am or I know this strategy and I will clear it. So that for one first attempt or your second attempt or your third attempt, doing this exercise is a must. If you want to clear prelims, it is a must. Everybody who had cleared it for the first time will do it in a similar manner. But it's only that number of question papers will vary. Now, once you learn from your mistakes, what you need to do, you need to apply. This is one set. The second set that you need to understand here, the changing dynamics. Now, till I'll say 2017, probably, till 2017, the tone of the paper was 1. Right? Now, I'll classify it as say pre-2017, 2018, post-2018. Till 2017, the trend of the exam, the tone of the paper, the psyche of UPSC was something different. It had a very decent mix of current affairs plus static, and this static was from standard sources, your Lakshmikant, your Spectrum, your history, whatever it is, right? Your economy from your 12th standard macroeconomics textbook. It was all very direct. But in 2018, suddenly UPSC made a shift. Now go back and refer to 2018 question paper, you will see history questions were something very different. It emphasized more on the chronological form of history questions. Then from then on, in 2019, 2020, 2021, there is no pattern. It's all very random. And when you look at the changing dynamics, one very clear dynamic what UPSC has changed is its shift from polity to political theory. This is very, very evident. Now, if you look at 2020, there were roughly, I think, say 3 to 4 questions which are asked on thought, political thought or political theory. In 2021, this number shifted to 5 to 6. Now, this is a shift in the standard source. Everybody believe in Lakshmikant? Yes, but it shifted to political theory. This is one. The second dynamic is, now this is something interesting. Current affairs. On the face of it, when you look at your 2020 question paper or when you look at your 2021 question paper, the general comment was UPSC stopped asking current affairs. Yes, all your YouTube channels, hot news, breaking news, everything, they'll say UPSC stopped asking current affairs. It is focusing on static. That's what is a general crowd wisdom which talks about. But now when you look at 2021 paper, let me go back there. I think in this paper, I think it was very evident, right? Now, for example, in this paper, they had asked upon this custodial issues. That was premise of custodial deaths. That Thoothukudi custodial death issue was there. Now, there they had asked about that. That is one, right? Then your Dholavira, I told you, that is IBC. IBC is one where Rakigadi was considered as the largest IBC site. That is one excavation. B. Bilal getting Padma Bhushan is one of the famous archaeologists. That is second current affair. The third current affair is it was declared as site of heritage. 5 sites were declared as site of heritage for conservation, and Dholavira was one of it. It's a current affair. Now there was a question on cooperatives. In 2020 also there was a question on cooperatives. Now when you talk about question on cooperatives in 2020 and 2021, you would see that the urban cooperatives coming under the ambit of RBI, under RBI Act 1935. Yes? Yes or no? This is one. The second thing with respect to your economy is they had asked about section 7 of RBI Act, where there is a clause that central government can force the RBI to transfer the reserves. This is a current affair because the reserves of RBI have touched the highest, around $600 billion. It is a current affair. Now the same linked current affair for your reserves is your capital expenditure. We talked about capital accounts with respect to your BOPs. Now it is a current affair. Now for example, the Tree City, Hyderabad, that is a current affair. Your sports questions were a current affairs. Now how can you say there are no current affairs? It is only that, now when you look at the general trend, it is extrapolating. What is it doing is, it is going for something called as composite questions. If you have to classify this type of questions, there are something called as composite questions, where the subject matter is being picked from current affairs and an extrapolated static issue is being asked. That is there. Now, for example, if we talk about 2020, there was a question on money multiplier. There was a question on money aggregates. Now, that question on money aggregate was asked because of accommodative policy of MPC. That was asked in the context of COVID. Now, what is it doing is, it is extrapolating. It is going one step ahead. Now, what we do, we are stuck at this point. We are stuck at this point. Understanding that we are stuck at this point is extremely important. What we do, we read, we by heart, we play holy with it, and we enter the examination hall thinking that directly there are questions coming from current affairs. No, my dear, that trend has been stopped by UPSC in 2018. This is one very important changing dynamic in your prelims examination. That is why it is becoming tough. That extrapolation is what is needed. The third changing dynamic is environment as a subject. Environment as a subject. Now you would see environment as a subject till 2019, it was conventional environment, where they were asking national parks, where they were asking certain concepts, where they were asking certain factual information. The river which passes through these national parks, or this location of national parks, or the parks that are in the Nilgiris, or the meeting point of Western Ghats and Eastern Ghats. Now these were some of the environment standard questions that were asked. But when you look at 2020, 2021, the changing dynamic is this is the nature of the question. Environment, science and tech, and geography. Now it is going for composite questioning. Now whatever question that is coming is here. For example, in 2021, there was a question on Saline Lake. You all remember that Saline Lake? I think. Is that? See this. 44th question. Now 44th question might appear very factual, but it is a composite question. It is a composite question. Now, for example, for that case here, where is that bacteria, fungi, virus? 39th question. That is also a composite question. That is a composite of science and tech and environment. Now, you need to understand, gone are those days where they are directly asking a straightforward question. Now, that's why it is becoming random. Now, once we are able to decode this particular set, and once we are ready, I think it is not going to affect it. Right? This is third changing dynamic. Right? So, these are certain changing dynamics when it comes to your examination. Right? These are some of the changing dynamics. There are many more which can be discussed. Right? I have a crunch of time which I have to restrict myself. right? From here, the fourth very important thing that you need to understand as part of clearing prelims, previous year questions, PYQs. Now, you might be perplexed if I state this particular fact. In 2021, there were 28 questions from previous years. In 2020, there were 24 questions from previous years. In 2019, there were 36 questions from previous years. This is something boggling. Yes. UPSC is also repeating questions. Arey bichara UPSC, just imagine. Now somebody has to pass this exam. Somebody has to pass. It has to show his daya, karuna. Arey, please pass. Come means. We have to conduct something called as means. For that, you need to clear prelims. Now, when you look at this particular aspect, your previous year questions are again very, very key in clearing prelims. Now, again, don't expect that what was asked in 2011 directly they are cut, copy, paste in 2021. No. Previous year questions in the sense that again, say you have one question, you have 4 options. Now, one of these option is being made into a question. Now, once you are able to do at least 10 to 12 years previous year questions with such an approach, understanding the question, marking the question concept, reading the question concept, reading about all the 4 options, I think your 30 questions will be safely answered. 30 questions can be answered. Now, for example, I'll show you an example. If you talk about 2021 paper, where is that Savannah's question? Yes, 31, question number 31. Yeah. Now, this is a previous year question. Now, if I'm not wrong, in 2014, there was a question on savannas and with respect to fires. There is something called the savanna climate or biome is considered as a fire climax. I think you would have read about fire climaxes in your environment, right? The polyclimax theory, Whitaker's. There you will see it is a repeated question. In that 2014 previous year question, if you would have read about that particular question, if you have read about something called as, there is something called as fire climax, if you would have read about something called as polyclimax, this question could be safely answered. There are 28 such questions. Right? So, you need to understand that previous year questions plays a very, very important role. Now again, same thing, it is an extrapolated approach. You need to decode, you need to dissect, you need to bisect, every kind of thing has to be done with your previous year question so that if it is repeated, you can answer. Is this clear? Right? So, now, before I move to the next part, let me summarize. Right? We have seen something called as algorithm, knowledge, practice, and learning from your mistakes. We have seen a tabular column. We have seen about something called as working on silly mistakes. We have seen something called as reducing these silly mistakes. And there are different forms of reducing these silly mistakes. One is by revision, one is by practice, right? Now, the third way of reducing technique. Now, what do you mean by this technique? Now, I'll tell you to do one exercise once you go back. Open your YouTube, right? Not YouTube Shorts, YouTube, right? Type UPSC prelims tricks. Just do that. I think you'll roughly get around 100 and 120 videos. Okay, you will get around 120 videos right? Now what it does, most of the videos will have one very common thing. They'll say eliminate the extreme statement. Open and you will see, you'll learn this. Eliminate the extreme statement. If it is a science and technology question, mark all of the above and come out. That's what they do. That's what they say, right? If it is a S&T question, Are Babu, don't read it. You consider that your die is rolling 6 and put all of the above and come out. Now here what happens? UPSC also is watching those videos. Now they are also bored about setting this paper because this UPSC exam will run for 1 long year. Now it is like some festive season which goes on. Prelims, mains and interview. Then again prelims comes up. Those people are also bored. Now in that gap between interview result and prelims, what do they do? UPSC prelims tricks in YouTube, right? Now when you look at 2020 and 2021, what it did, I think when you go back and refer last year's key, 2020 key, and when you refer any of the coaching institutes key, some XYZ, and this is UPSC key, the difference was of 14 marks. The difference was of 14 marks. Now there was a friend who was scoring 110 as per one of the key, but at the end he did not clear his prelims. Now what happened? Now why this difference is purely because of S&T questions. There were 4 S&T questions which had a different key from the crowd wisdom. You would see that 2020 and 2021 UPSC had started shifting its approach of S&T from all of the above to one particular pattern. It is not all of the above anymore. Now even this year's question, there was a question on copper slag. I think all of the institutes have given all of the above, but the answer is 1, 3 and 5 if I am not wrong. Now here what is happening is, those YouTube tricks, those are things of past. Those are things of past. What you need to do is, we need to evolve, making it a dynamic process. Making it a dynamic process, and we need to evolve. And for you to evolve, we need to understand what is the psyche of UPSC exam. Now, if you're in the same set of that YouTube prelims tricks, and if I see some 5-6 videos, yes, I will go and apply. No, it's a myth. Because what you need to understand is these tricks, they are extremely dangerous. They are a double-edged sword. If they click, you're inside. If they don't click, you're outside. Only those things happen. But applying these tricks or techniques, it needs to be a rational process. It needs to be a rational process. It needs to be a slow process. It needs to be a learning process. It needs to be an imbibing process. It is not that I'll see 4 or 5 videos, I'll go and apply these techniques. No, it is not going to happen, my dear. Because at the end of the day, when solving your 100 questions in the exam hall, the 2 hours, out of which half an hour is gone, because your OMR, the examiner, all this, 1.5 hours, trust me, you will not even remember one trick. Unless and until you would have practiced before. Now this practice comes where? In your second stage. That is extremely important. Now what is this role of these techniques? This is something interesting. You have 100 questions, out of which hardly 30 questions you would know directly. Right? Even in 2021 paper, I think I knew around roughly like 38 direct questions. Now what I did, what did I tell you in the mid of the discussion? That your attempt has to be 85 plus. Now what is the gap here? 50 questions. 50 questions. And I think those who have attempted your exam before, you will agree with me that at least 40 questions will be in a 50-50 mode. That means you would have eliminated two options. Your two options are toggling. This 50% is there. This is one set. The second set will be, you would have eliminated one option, but you are left with other three options. And there is one more set where you do not know anything. Now, for you to increase your accuracy percentage in all these three stages, you need these techniques. You need these techniques. Now, you might say, sir, then what is the point of your first step? You told you have to read everything, you have to revise. Then instead of reading and revising, if you had these techniques, that is sufficient. No. Because the basis for you to apply this technique is your knowledge. Is your knowledge. Now, one classic example I'll give it from 2021 question paper. There was a question on Vijayanagara dynasty. There was a question on Vijayanagara dynasty. And this particular question it talked about women bodyguards. It talked about soothsaying. Right? Now, in this particular question, I think if I can find, I think it will be good. But yes, 65. Question number 65. Now, it is a question on Vijayanagara and women. Right? Now, this particular question had a mix of knowledge and technique. Now, when you talk about women, one thing was very clear that Sri Krishna Deva Raya had women bodyguards. That is knowledge. Now, if a woman can be kept as a bodyguard, that means she should be having the knowledge of wrestling. Yes, I am keeping option 1 with me. When I keep option 1, what did I tell you? I told you that I am going to eliminate. I'll eliminate C. Right? Now, just look at this. Look at option 2 and option 4. Astrology and soothsaying. Soothsaying is what? Sodhi chaptanamma, sodhi chap. They come like that with that basket in their hand. That is soothsaying. Now, don't you think astrology and soothsaying are going to toggle? If soothsaying is correct, my astrology is also correct, or if astrology is correct, soothsaying is correct. So, when 2 and 4 are toggling, and when I know that 1 is correct, what is the answer? 1 is correct, 2 and 4 are toggling. So, answer is D. Now, here what am I doing? Now, you might not understand what is this concept of toggling. Don't worry. Right? What I am doing here is, it is only that 1, I am applying my knowledge. 2, I am applying my technique. Right? I'll show you similar question from 2019 if I can get. Yes, I think question number 7 or 8. Yeah, perfect. Just look at question 7. Right? Which one of the following is not an Harappan site? Okay. Just see the question. Now remember the option called as Sohagura. Okay. Just see this option C. Right? Now look at question number 8. It is asking about Ashokan inscription. There is a similar option that is repeated in question number 8. That is Sohagura. Now that means, I think that year I had got both of them. 2019. That means see here. Now, when you look at 7th question, you need to have knowledge to say that Chahudaron or these are Harappan sites. That means I am eliminating option A and option B. Now I am left with 50-50, that is option C and option D. These two are new sites. Nobody of us knew. Sohagura is a new site and Desalpur is a new site. They are asking about which is not a Harappan site. Now there were two kinds of aspirants. One was who marked Sohagura in both the question 7 and question 8 and came out. Because it is 99% probability that at least in one question that will be the option. See here, they are asking about Ranyo Ashoka and Ashokan edict. Now when they are asking about Ranyo Ashoka and Ashokan edict, and if they are given Sohagura, that means Sohagura is one of the place where you find Ashokan edict, but it is not an Harappan site. Yes. Now this is called as toggling. Now UPSC could have given this 8th question somewhere in 24, 25 or 40. Why did it give it in question 7 and question 8? It is checking your presence of mind. Yes. Simply checking your presence of mind. You would have given question 7, non-Harappan site. Somewhere in 20 or somewhere in 40 you would have given. Which of them is in? Or where do you find this Ranyo Ashoka? But it didn't do that. It did gave 7, question number 7 and question number 8. Now here UPSC is only giving you clue. Arey Babu, answer is Sohagura. Now here, I needed my knowledge to eliminate Kaudi and Sahudaru. But I needed my technique to get at the right answer. 99% of the aspirants said 95%. Okay. 95% of the aspirants, we are stuck with knowledge. We are stuck with knowledge. What we say, we studied 10 hours a day. We studied for 6 months, we studied for 8 months, but we were not able to clear prelims. Yes, my dear, you need to understand the fact that with the knowledge you are having only the basket of 30 questions in the question paper. Then what about rest 35 questions which will make you write mains? Now for that, you need a mixture, a combo of your knowledge as well as technique. These techniques, right? These are supposed to be learned. And these techniques are supposed to be learned on the basis of decoding the nature of UPSC. Now you need to understand one more beautiful fact about UPSC prelims is that every year there are repeated topics. Every year there are repeated topics. Now for example, if you take history, there is no question paper without Vijayanagara. Check it. Except in 2017 where they had asked question on Kakatiya, Motupalli inscription or Motupalli as a port.
ఇప్పుడు చదివినాం కదా మోటపాలెం వరే.
Right? People are relating too much. Emotions, senti. Huh? Fine. See, there is always a question on Vijayanagara. There is no paper where you don't have a question on Vijayanagara. Take it for granted, at least from 2016. If they are missing on Vijayanagara, some South Indian kingdom. If you talk about 2016, there was a question on Mamalapuram. In 2017, there was a question on Kakatiya. In 2018, there was a question on Vijayanagara. 2019, there was a question on Vijayanagara with respect to Kalyana Mandapas. 2021, there was a question on Vijayanagara, I just told you. Yes. That means, if I prepare Vijayanagara in and out, don't you think I am equipped with 2 marks already? Yes. Now, my dear, it is our fundamental aim of this particular session or this particular strategy or this particular preparation is moving closer to that magic figure of 100 plus. Anything above 100 plus is beautiful and fantastic. Right? There is no paper without this. There is no paper without your money aggregates. Economy, money aggregates, there is no paper without money aggregates. Here M0, M1, M2, M3. If you understand the fundamentals of M0, M1, M2, M3, that was asked in 2 different types of questions in last year 2020. In 2019, there was a question on money multiplier, which is very similar concept of money aggregates. In 2021 also there was a question on money aggregates. And there is no paper without banking or RBI. There is no paper without RBI or banking. There is no paper without Buddhism or Jainism. There is no paper without your fundamental rights or DPSP. Now there are set of such topics for every paper, for every subject. We have a list of topics for every subject. Now just imagine if you're thorough with all of these topics. Now don't you think the basket list of 30 is being reinforced to 40, 45? Yes. Now if you're revising all the previous year questions, if you're decoding and if you're extrapolating the knowledge of all of your previous year questions, don't you think this 40, 45 is expanding to 60? Simple. My dear, very, very simple it is. Provided you practice, you revise. Right? Now, coming to this techniques. Coming to this techniques. When we look at this techniques aspect of prelims, we as a team have come up with something called as 16 templates. Now this 16 templates for UPSC prelims, right? I've been applying from all of them. I think from my first attempt. I prepared for 6 months prelims, to be very precise. Once I prepared for 6 months of first attempt, and when you are able to understand the tone, when you are able to understand the psyche of UPSC, I think it's pretty easy for you to clear. And I have been applying all this 16 templates. Now what we are going to do is, now there is going to be a course that is going to be launched with respect to these 16 templates, right? These 16 templates. Now don't worry, it is not going to take more than 2 hours per day. It will not take more than 2 hours per day for 40 days. All of these 16 templates we are going to discuss, we are going to imbibe, and that particular activity is only going to be for 2 hours every day for 40 days from March 17th, right? The reason for March 17th is you would have roughly around 80 days, or I think you would have roughly around 70 days. 70 days. And out of the 70 days, if you are able to spend 40 days every day 2 hours, I'm pretty sure we'll make it into mains list. Now, please trust me, there are only 2 fundamental objectives behind taking these 16 templates on a larger scale. One, why not increase the proportion of so-called R students writing mains? One agenda. There is no bigger agenda, right? One agenda is, why not use all this what I have learned for 5 years or 6 years to a larger crowd? Because when I devised all this, or when we devised all these 16 techniques, when I was able to apply to some of my friends on a pilot study, the success rate was 98%. To be very precise, I'll give you numbers. Right? 2019, 2020, 2021. Don't worry, it is all very objective. Right? Now, this particular 16 templates, we are discussed with these people in this respective years. Right? I think this year one person could not clear. The success rate is roughly 99%. Now all these are in my very, very close circle. Now all these are in my very, very close circle. And out of these 7 or out of these 6 who cleared, 3 are writing forest service along with me this year. Right? Forest service cutoff, I think you would know that it is 15 plus marks, more than your civil services cutoff. This is one. And if you're not believing about these 16 templates, I'll give my own personal example. It's pure strategy. Pure strategy. Now, you might be wondering, sir, what are these 16 templates? I'll just give you one sample, right? Because if I give everything now, we will not have, because it takes a lot of time. I can give, but what happens is it will be another YouTube video, which UPSC will watch it and demolish all this, right? So one example I'll take. For example, if I'm talking about polity, there are roughly 3 to 4 templates in polity. First, it is till your DPSP or fundamental duties, it is one template. Like, now what do I mean by this is, UPSC can ask you only 3 forms of questions from this section. One, either it can ask directly on the articles. 2, either it can directly ask on the concepts. For example, your rule of law. For example, right to vote. Was it a constitutional right? Or is it a fundamental right? Or is it a legal right? Or is it a statutory right? So one is, it can ask about the articles. For example, your right to privacy. It can ask you about concepts. 3, it can ask you about amendments. If they want to go a little more specific and if they want to differentiate between a person who is studying and who is not studying, they can go for this sort of question. For example, in 2017, there was a question specifically with respect to DPSP and 42nd Constitutional Amendment. Your Article 43, A or B? 43, A, 47A, 48A, right? And 37, E and F. Sorry, 39 E and F, right? Now, these are some of the articles which are amended as part of your 42nd Constitutional Amendment. Now, that was one specific question that was asked. Now, from this section, if you are able to revise, if you are able to prepare in this perspective, any question can be answered. Take it for granted. Now, the second template is they can go for organizations. Now, they can go for organizations. Now, when you talk about going for organizations, when you go for when it talks about organizations, again, it has a very limited scope. One, it can ask you the composition. It can ask you the appointment and removal process. It can ask you the ministry. Is anything else needed from organizations? No. For any organization, if you are able to know who is appointing the person, who is removing the person, under which ministry it is, whether suppose if CBI is asked, most of us are confused whether it is under MHA or DOPT. Yes. And the composition, whether it will have 2, whether it will have 3, whether it will have 7, whether it will have 9, whether it will have 13. Whenever you are preparing your organizations, be it statutory, be it constitutional, be it extra constitutional, be it executive, any of these organizations, if you are able to remember and whenever you are reading the statements and if you are able to keep this template in mind, I think those organization questions are not going to be difficult. Will they be difficult? No. Because you know that UPSC is going to give a blank in this particular statement at this particular point of time. That which ministry, which or what is the composition or who is appointing me. If you are able to see all this, I think that organization part is different. Done. The third template is concepts. Now take last 5 years papers. Every polity question can be classified under these 3 heads. Without any doubt. Now these concepts, this is the place where UPSC is drifting away from the standard sources. Now for example, in 2017, there was a question on liberty. What is the true meaning of liberty? In 2018, there was a question on equality. In 2019, there was a question on something called as social capital. In 2020 and in 2021, again, they have come back. And in 2021, they had asked about the definition or the meaning of the state. Now, all these are conceptual understandings. Now, these conceptual understandings are not from your polity, but from your political theory. The true meaning of rule of law, the true meaning of separation of powers, or the true meaning of privacy, the true meaning of state, the true meaning of citizenship, the true meaning of the right to vote, or the true meaning of your property, right to property. I think this year that it was a question, 2021. Now, all these are conceptual. Now, is there any template which we have missed? No. Preparing in this manner is extremely important, my dear. What happens is, now your brain is also just like a room. Now, most of the boys, they will be able to relate what room will be like. One more kachra, right? You will not know where is your polity book. You will not know where is your history book, right? Now Satish Chandra has to come and find. Huh? Now you need to understand, your brain is also just like your room. The more partitioned it is, the more neat and more organized it is. Now in prelims examination, now when you look at the nature of questions, the toughness is because you need to recollect, you need to have clarity, you need to be confident, and you need to be sure that what I'm marking is correct. In mains, if you know 1 point, you will write for 10 marks. Nobody is going to come and punish. He is not going to give you capital punishment if you are stretching the answer. But in prelims examination, automatically the punishment is devised in the form of negative marking. So the careful or being extremely careful whenever you are answering becomes an important factor. And for you to choose the right option, it has to be organized. It has to be partitioned. For you to partition, and I don't think there is a better strategy than this. Now I'll give you one more taste if you want, right? If you talk about history, one template is personalities. One template is personalities. Every year there is a question on some of the other personality. Last year there was a question related to Dalit literature, right? This year there was a question related to that Mahatma Gandhi's book. Now there are multiple personality questions which are asked. Now you need to understand, 99% of the time UPSC is going to go for current affairs based personality question. Last year the question on Gandhi, because of 150 years. This year you should not wonder if there is a question on Subhash Chandra Bose, because it is 125 years. This year you should not wonder if there is a question on Bhakti movement where it was already given in your mains examination. 2022, you should not wonder about that if there is a question on Dvaita, Advaita and Visishta Advaita, Shuddha Advaita. If there is a question on this Advaita philosophy, you should not wonder, because it is 1000 years of Ramanujacharya. And President and Honorable Prime Minister are going to come and open the statue of equality. Now, that is how they trace their current affairs. Now, we say history is static. No. For prelims, we need to extrapolate all this. Now, you might think, or you might do that you'll go to the market now, collect all the current affairs, right? X, Y, Z, W, P, Q, something, whatever. You'll collect. Now you will start searching. You will start searching and you will mark and you will read all those. Doing it is fine. But remember one simple funda whenever you are preparing for this exam, that if you are putting 10 hours of study in anything, your investment, there is something called as return on investment that you come across. I put in 10 rupees, I get 2 rupees, right? Same funda applies here. If you are putting in 10 hours of study for something, ensure that you are getting at least 2 marks. If you are not getting 2 marks from those 10 hours, you have wasted 10 hours. Right? Instead of that, you could have watched Akanda 3 times. Huh? Alaya. Right? So that return on investment factor has to be taken care. So such 16 templates are going to be discussed for 40 days, 2 hours or maximum 2.5 hours. It will not take more time because I know how valuable it is, because prelims is all about spending a lot of time with you. In this 2.5 hours, what I'll be doing is I'll give you, Arey Babu, this is the template. I'll throw at you what you do. The next day, whatever template is given, you're going to prepare in that particular set and come back. Then I'll throw one more template. Now here what is happening is you are already settled with the decent knowledge. My business in those 40 days, for those 2 hours or roughly 100 hours that we'll be spending together, is to partition your knowledge. To pick this particular point and throw it in one corner, or to pick this and throw it in another corner. If I'm able to do this partitioning with this template method, trust me, my dear, nobody is going to stop you. Nobody is going to stop you. Because these are tested. These are tested not for 1 year, not for 2 years, but last 6 years. Now, I think testing a particular strategy for 6 years is not a small thing. And testing not on myself, but other 27 people whom I told you, my friends. Out of 27, 26, for 26 it has cleared, and some are even writing their forest service. Is this clear? Right? Right? Now, just before I open the session for doubts, now one more devil in the box is CSAT. Right? From past 2 years, it is hiding somewhere in the corner and spoiling all the ambitions. Right? From past 2 years, what is happening is, morning people would have written well. They are confident. I am getting 104, 106, 108, 112, 122, 148. There was one friend of mine who was scoring 156 last year. That friend could not clear CSAT. Now just imagine her plight. Just imagine her status of mind. Now again, for CSAT also, it is the simple funda. Remember the god of cricket? I think the latest god, the MS Dhoni, right? He said control the controllables. Simple, control the controllables in CSAT also. Now when you break your CSAT paper, it is your quant and English broad classification. Quant is something which I am dealing with, math or reasoning, whatever. Now here when you look at this paper, what happens is, most of us are mathophobic, right? We see numbers, and did you all watch Tare Zameen Par? That kid, everything will be roaming like this. For us also, these numbers, plus symbol, minus symbol, division symbol, it will be roaming like this. right? Now, because of this, what happens is most of us invest our time and our this thing on English. But here what is happening is, when you're attempting your questions on English, it is not straightforward comprehension questions. Again, there is an extrapolative technique which is used by UPSC there. It talks about logical inferences. It talks about assumptions. It talks about contradictions. Now, it is not asking straightforward, but it is asking what is the back of the mind of that particular person who is writing that particular comprehension. Now, that is something which you have to enter that person's mind, which is very difficult. Now, you cannot do that. Now, that is the reason why 90% of the aspirants lose their marks in English. Because even the coaching institute sitting peacefully in an AC room, they are not sure what is the answer. When you go back and refer the CSAT model answer key, every institute will give some answer. X institute will give A, Y institute will give B, Z institute will give C. Now all four options are covered there. Now UPSC is making this paper difficult just with this section, English. Because here the options are very, very close. Even though you interpret the question correctly, but there is a play of options there. What I would suggest for CSAT is rely more on quant and math. Now again, it is very simple funda here also. Now in reasoning, there is no paper without a series question. You can refer. And there is no question paper without arithmetic progression and geometric progression. For example, last year that question on ball that is bouncing, how many times does it bounce? That is an arithmetic geometric progression question. That an equals to a plus 1 minus d, that formula, simple formula. Now there are roughly 10 to 12 such topics which you need to identify from quant section. Now when you are able to identify this bunch of 10 to 12 topics, now if you are practicing all of those topics, I think you will be able to answer roughly 20 questions. Roughly 20 questions. Now for you to answer this, you will just need 1 hour of practice every day. Now whenever you start your prelims preparation, I think you must be in the mains now. In your transition, whenever you start your prelims preparation, ensure that you solve at least for 1 hour CSAT. For those who have this mathophobia, that Tara Zameen Par wala kids, right? Now for those who are comfortable with quant, please don't spoil your attempt by going for English. Because you need to understand one practical factor, that the paper is going to be very random in the morning. When it is very random in the morning, it is taxing and it is very strainful for you to recollect, for you to aggregate, for you to segregate these facts and answer that particular multiple choice question. Although the exam is only for 2 hours, but you need to recollect roughly 200 concepts, because in every question there are 2 concepts being asked. Now, which is not easy. Now, by the time you write your CSAT, you are mentally tired. It's a very, very practical factor, my dear. Now, by the time you write your CSAT, you are mentally tired. Now, when you are mentally tired, what happens? Will you be able to interpret what the writer of the comprehension is thinking? No. Rather than that, sitting and solving those maths which are, or the numbers which are in front of you, is much easier. So that is the logic here, right? So whenever you're practicing for CSAT, practice for more, right? 1 hour. Now again, now as part of those 40 days, now every year, I'm not exaggerating, okay? I attempt only 8 questions in English. CSAT, it's a very standard attempt. I don't attempt more than 40, right? Because to be very frank, I don't have so much of energy. Okay, morning I'm already exhausted. Evening, I'll have energy to attempt 40 questions. So what I do 32 of quant, 32 of quant, 8 I'll attempt English. Now in this English also, I'm not exaggerating. I don't read the comprehension. I'll straightforward read the question and read the options and mark them and come out. And God forbid, I mean, till this attempt, all 8 were correct. For past 5 years, I've been doing this. I don't read the comprehension. I'll just read that question, the options given. I'll mark the option and come out. Now, this might seem very exaggerating, but the fundamental reason why I'm telling out this is, if you understand the psyche of this exam, if you understand the psyche of the UPSC setting paper, this is a doable exercise. And as and when time permits, I think as part of those 40 days, I'll tell you these tricks or to decode the psyche of UPSC with respect to your CSAT English also. Right? Any doubts? Any doubts? I think session I opened it for doubts. I think after that, sir will come and talk to you people. You want to ask something, you can. Online also, if you want to ask something, you can. Now you need to understand. See, the question is like, how do you balance solving questions and the static part? That's what you say, the standard sources. Now you need to understand that from 50 to 60 question papers, whichever institute is setting, you will understand that all of them are from standard sources. All of them are from standard sources. Point number 1. Point number 2, as we have seen, we will see roughly like 1800 to 2000 concepts when you are solving these 6000 questions, right? Now, when you are solving these 6000 questions and when you are reading the solutions on these 1800 to 2000 topics, don't you think you are already revising your standard sources? Yes, fair enough. Now, the process of solving for the first time question paper is, now say 1.5 hours, keep 1.5 hours for solving the paper. Do it in an exam mode, my dear. Don't do 30 questions in the morning, have tea break, then do 30 questions in the before lunch, then sleep, then again tea, then other 30 questions. Don't do this, right? Keep it in an exam mode, 1.5 hours, solve those 100 questions, make the table and read your solutions. I think it would roughly take 6 hours, 5 to 6 hours, this process. Now, I think hoping that you're studying more than 10 hours or at least 10 hours, you have roughly 4 to 5 hours. Now, wherever or whichever areas you are making more of silly mistakes, or whichever areas where you are struggling when you are answering. For example, there are some questions where you struggle when you are answering, but somehow by chance you get them right. Right? Now, when in that concepts, spend more time on static in this 4 to 5 hours.
Sir, where can you focus more in CSAT?
Where can we focus more on?
CSAT topics.
CSAT topics, I think we'll discuss as part of those sessions. See, basically today I'm crunching with time, right? Now I think you will be able to decipher them also when you see those previous 10 years papers, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, okay, sir.
Yes. See, I think she asked. So now I think the modus operandi of those 40 days is like we are going to have roughly 2.5 hours of session. Now of which 1 hour 45 minutes. The breakage is something like this, 1 hour 45 minutes and 45 minutes. Now this 1 hour 45 minutes are those topics I'm going to discuss which are high impact areas. I'm not going to give you again the notes, the running notes, or I'm not going to dictate. If it is a topic on Gupta, I will only give you 8 to 10 points which you need to know for prelims exam. And these 8 to 10 points, if you are getting them in your book, I will not be giving them. These 8 to 10 points are such things which we often forget. Because as I am also in the process, or also I've been through this process, I know what generally people forget. Right? So here what is going to happen is, now if I'm talking on Gupta, it is going to be 8 to 10 points. If I'm talking about Vijayanagara, I'm going to talk about 8 to 10 points. Now we need to remember that these 8 to 10 points are in view of guessing the paper. In the sense, suppose last year 2021 they had asked the question on women during Vijayanagara, right? Now that means they have talked about the socio-economic aspect of Vijayanagara. Last year they had asked on culture of Vijayanagara. Now if they have to ask a question on Vijayanagara, it is either the political aspect, that which is left, or their military aspect. Now this is going to be the logical way of taking those sessions. It's not going to be random, and it is not going to be like a foundation course material. Please don't expect a foundation course material for those 40 days and come. No. It is only going to be hit and get. That's all. That is the funda. We are going to hit those 8 to 10 points of each topic. That is going to be your last 1 week revision material. Right? You're not going to revise anything else. Apart from that, this 45 minutes, we are going to see the PYQs. PYQs of that subject. Suppose if you are dealing with polity, we will see the PYQs of polity. And what we told, we have said that the extrapolative nature of the questions will be dealt with. The extrapolative nature, because now again, if I discuss PYQ, you can read them in your any of those books. There's no point. But we are going one step ahead and we'll be discussing this extrapolative aspect. This is going to be the structure of that 2.5 hours for 40 days. Right? Thank you guys. See you on, I think, see you for that 40-day session. Right?
So, the faculty has explained how the course will be there. Now, I will be explaining in detail. From February 26th to March 16, 20 days you will be having CSAT classes, where we will be covering English comprehension, reasoning and quantitative aptitude. Then the GS strategy classes from March 17th to April 30. So, in this 40 days of session, excluding Sundays, in this 40 days of session, we will be focusing on nearly 180 most important topics in detailed explanation of almost all the topics of all the subjects in a revision, quick revision manner with templates, with skill, how to be active in the examination hall by the presence of mind. So, this 20 plus 40, the actual course is this, but this we are providing free of cost. CSAT classes will be provided with the best in India. So, what all classes we are going to provide in this particular session? CSAT free classes will be there, all government schemes classes will be there, all reports and indices like Global Hunger Index, all the indices and reports will be covered in this particular sessions. Economic survey and the budget classes will be covered. Not only me and not only the Gautam sir and the several other faculties will be coming and taking the classes. Apart from this, the original GS 40 classes which we are promising from March 17th to April 30. This 40 days of session, you will be having this. Total 1.5 hour 45 minute session will be there. Quick revision will take place. And 45 minutes MCQ sessions we will take. How to, not just MCQs, how to remember, how to be active, how to keep the presence of mind such that in the examination hall itself we will be decoding it. The techniques, the nuances, the templates, the formula based templates for GS we will be explaining in this 40 sessions. 40 sessions will be, each session will be for 2.5 hours. Remember this. And on the same topic, daily 50 MCQs we will be providing on the topics which we discuss. So, if you do this, damn sure that you will clear, your prelims will be cleared. 100% your prelims will be cleared. So, for further details, scan this code, fee related queries, any doubts, you can scan this code and fill the form in the description also, we will be calling you, or call our number 9000400939. I hope you understood this session. Thank you. All the best. Jai Hind.